All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Relationship Status. Here we talk about all things young love, both the good and the bad, weekly, dropping every weekend at Sunday at 6 p.m. Today we are hosting a very, very special episode, but before I actually talk about it, I gotta introduce myself. My name is YLD, aka Young Love Doctor. I'll be here all week. So today's episode is really special because we're having our very first panel. Very first Relationship Status panel. Thank you. It's been a long time coming. I think this is our 7th episode. This is going to be pretty exciting. The overall topic is going to be taboo topics on young relationships. All right? So, without further ado, what we always start this show with is, what is y'all's relationship status?
Hey everyone, my name is Axel. I've been in a relationship for 6 months now.
What's going on, guys? My name is Hunter. I'm currently single right now.
I'm Casey, and I'm currently in a situationship.
Hey
guys, my name is Tijan, and I am single.
Hey, I'm Sophia, and I think I am still single.
Whoa. We got some complicated...
There's some nuance in the words. Yeah, I didn't realize there's that much variety. Yeah, it's kind of binary.
Yeah, situationship, and I don't know. I never heard that in the show before. So this is going to be a pretty interesting thing. I think. This is going to be pretty interesting.
Right? For sure.
All right. We're going to have a couple things we're going to be doing today. A couple different rounds, a couple different sections of how this episode's going to run. The first thing that we're going to be doing is called Would You Rather? All right. So I'm going to ask you guys a question. I'm going to give you 2 options. And the first person who feels confident enough to just come out and say what they feel about it, go ahead. From there, it'll be a free flow conversation. All right. But keep your answers 30 to 60 seconds. Right. If you have something that you think is pretty good, go ahead, keep going. But, try to keep it flowing. Yeah. All right. Respect other people as they're giving their opinions. Right. I don't care. You can insult each other, but just do it after they finish talking. All right. Okay. All right. First question. Would you rather have your partner sign a prenup to protect your assets or trust them completely with your finances?
Sign a prenup.
Sign a prenup. Casey's hot fire coming through. All right. Why do you think so, man?
Because love these days is so complicated. You could be in love right now, and then 2 months, 2 years, 20 years from now, they do something heinous, and you're in a complicated divorce fighting for assets that rightfully are yours. And I don't want to have to deal with all the lawyers and the fees when I know my money is mine, my property is mine, and as someone who has property and money, I shouldn't have to fight for that.
Wow.
Respect.
That was a good answer. That was a good answer.
That is true.
I think I don't know. I'm just gonna take the devil's advocate. I don't think I would ideally want a relationship where there is no prenup just because we trust each other that much. I feel hopefully if I'm proposing to someone I'm not worried about them trying to scam me out of everything I own or whatever. Ideally, even if things end poorly, I'd hope we're not trying to rob each other blind. And yeah, I understand if there's a lack of trust there for sure, but otherwise, hopefully not.
I think I'll take the middle point in that. I definitely agree in that. I think when you're coming into a marriage, especially when you're your goal is to have a family, settle down, raise a life together, you definitely want to go into it with the idea of fulfillment that everything you guys have is built together, earned together, it's grown together as a family, as a unit. But then I think what happens in currently a lot of the modern day, marriages that we're seeing now, we're seeing divorces or things happen in long-standing marriages, and then one partner tries to exploit the other person by the use of not having a prenup to take advantage or get something out of the other partner. And I think that adds what Casey's point is to why just have a prenup, you know what I mean? Because it's not necessarily about a matter of trust, because if you don't truly trust the person, you really wouldn't be dating them, let alone marrying them. It's more so just a fact of if something does happen or something doesn't work out, where are the things that are in place to really protect what's yours?
Word. Any other thoughts on this?
I kind of play into a whole personal perspective of it, where it's I wouldn't want it done to me. If somebody looked at me and wanted me to sign the prenup, I'd be offended. Except you don't trust me, worst case sscenario. But if I was the one who had all the money and I knew they weren't doing anything and they were going to potentially get everything from me, I'd want them to sign the prenup.
Right. Yeah. And that's something I was going to ask, because it's in theory, it sounds very simple to be okay, if the average rational, logical person should look at it the way that you just said it, where it's okay, we both have assets, we both have money, or one person has it, one person has the money, one person but at the end of the day, like, you can change as an individual, and anything can happen 10, 15 years down the line. Like, I'm a totally different person I was 15 years ago. So, like, a lot can happen if you allow time to play its course, and you want to control for that by having a prenup in place. But to Sophia's perspective, if you're on the other side, and Hunter as well, like, if you're on the other side, if you're on the other side of that, and you're taking that from the other person, it feels crappy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, how do you? What's the practical answer here? Right. I think what I want to get out of this is for people out there who may be thinking about this. If you're in that situation and you know it's perfectly rational to have a prenup, what is a practical way about going about that? Like talking to your partner about that prenup, or do you think that if we're in love, I should really trust you? And you know what? Like, I think a prenup is just way too rigid and way too like, yeah, you're a human, and I don't know if I'm like can trust you. You know what I'm saying? Like that message. What do you guys think about that?
I think prenups make a lot of sense if like there's a huge imbalance in like what people own and are like contributing to like the relationship, and like, you know, when like when people are married, like everything is like theirs, right? If like there's a huge imbalance there, then like it probably just makes sense to get a prenup. But like if there's not, which like I feel like most people are looking for someone who's like, most people date like within like their class and like education and all of that. So like, well, you're not going to be like dating someone who makes like a ridiculous amount less or more than you. Odds are you don't need the prenup. But I can see like situations where like it's absolutely like common sense, like it's called for.
Yeah, I think in that stance too, like people usually can find a way to like balance like the division of assets or anything if they're in like a similar income range or similar status range, rather than like it being a huge like 70-30 split or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it really just depends on like the two people and where their statuses are. But like primarily, you don't really look for someone that's way outside or way under your limit.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, I feel like if you ended up in an awesome situation where you were dating somebody who was like a celebrity or like professional athlete, I know is like a lot of girls' dreams, right?
Yeah.
And like they know going into it, like I feel like you expect it at that point. Like if you're going and dating someone who's way out of your tax bracket, you know what's coming.
Yeah.
Like
But
you're
there's-
expecting.
but there are some people that actually just don't. Like,
Really?
Yeah, there's
They
some
just
people
think
who
it's, like,
there's
cultural?
some people who literally want to like, you know, get with someone of that status and like be of that league, and they're just like, yo, like, you know, I married a NFL rising star or whatever, and like this guy's pulling in like 7-8 figure contracts or whatever, and you know my life is set. They're not thinking like, oh, like they're thinking like, oh, because he, you know, he loves me, he's put a ring on my finger that, you know, I'm gonna get whatever like he has too. There's some people who actually just go into that thinking that, or they chase those people for that initiative.
Yeah.
Yes, but the prenup can also protect the person of, I guess you use the word or the phrase lower tax bracket. You know, like you marry someone out of your tax bracket who makes a lot more money. In some way, there's a power dynamic that is unfair, or not unfair, but just a power dynamic that's uneven between those two people. And so the prenup can actually be used to protect the person who's quote unquote below the other.
So it sounds like you actually are advocating for not having a prenup.
No, I'm advocating
Because that
for
protects, not having a prenup protects the lower tax.
No,
bracket,
having a
right?
prenup can protect both parties. For
Really?
example, you can have a prenup
How
say
does it protect
the lower tax
if the person of the higher tax bracket cheats, right? Just the same man and woman, whatever. The woman makes more money, and if she cheats, then you can have a prenup that says, because you can.
State what you
state the actual sentence.
Oh.
If you cheat,
Then I get.
wow, I didn't even know
Prenups
that.
can be whatever you want, man.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
you can
like-
make prenups be anything.
I thought it was straight up like black and white. Like you just
I just
can't.
learned about prenup contracts.
You can make a prenup where it's like, if anything were to happen, we're evenly splitting everything no matter what. That way, like, the other person
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean in that
Really
case,
I know that.
okay, I mean in that case, I mean like yeah, like I mean, prenups make a lot more sense. If you can actually augment the agreements like that, like
Nah, that's
Yeah.
not.
that, you can literally
Wow.
make that to like a more negotiable
I mean,
contract.
that's pretty
yeah.
fair to me.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
actually, I want to keep us moving because we have a lot to cover.
All right.
But I have a sub question on this that I think we need to tackle before we move on. So, what about? And this is a very interesting perspective. Didn't think about this, but like, what about someone who feels entitled to the other person's wealth, right? So, for example, you're a stay-at-home mom, and the dad has been working, and he's like been grinding and is out billionaire, but he was able to do that because you stayed at home to watch the kids that you guys care about, and he's the one that went to work every day.
Yeah.
So then, like, would you feel that, like, would it be fair to say that mom also has an entitlement to the cash as well?
Absolutely.
I think
Oh, okay.
Of course she
Okay.
does.
I
Of course
think
she
in
does.
the first half of the
Yes.
question, I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Hey, let me land.
Yeah.
But when
That's working to the
when you
law.
cooked in the second half, I was like, "All right."
That's why
all right.
it's like when you like what you were saying works in the law. That's why they say like if you've been married for a certain amount of years, like that's why even though you didn't have a job, you are entitled to a certain amount of the money.
It's
Because
like alimony, right?
Yeah.
That's like what that
because
is.
you
Right,
raised
right,
it,
It's
so
like
you
what
did
that
all
is.
the other things because
That
your
person was the
husband or wife
breadwinner.
was working. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think that makes sense.
Like if you're forfeiting and like sacrificing all of this just so that like your husband can make a lot of money, like of course it makes sense that you get compensated for that in some way when like you don't.
Yeah.
Well, how much
Yeah.
are they compensated, or how much should they be compensated?
Well, I mean,
much should they be?
I think
entitled?
that's subjective to the relationship
Yeah.
personally.
It
But I
depends
think,
on
like-
how much. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're like the sole breadwinner of the family and like you're obviously not able to like provide for the family in that capacity, and you have the partner doing that. That's a very important
Very
context
critical.
to the family and relationship. So
But like if somebody just feels like they're entitled to somebody's money just
Just
because
yeah,
they
yeah.
have more, that's not.
Yeah,
I think we're all on the same page.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Very good answers, guys. We're crushing this. This is good. This is a good panel. All right, we're gonna move on to the next question. So, kind of on this topic, right, of like roles in the house, right? So we were just talking about how like if one person's making more money than the other, etc. Traditional gender roles. What do you guys think about them? Do you think that, or would you rather be in a relationship where those are a little bit more defined, where hey, there's like a man in the house, right? Or do you think that it's a lot more blurred and that men and women should both have an equal set of responsibilities when it comes to raising a household?
I have a super simple take on this.
Okay.
Like
Love it.
people are good at different things. Like it's not a man or woman thing. Like when you're in a relationship, you should complement each other wherever anyone's strong. Like maybe your like wife's like a mechanical engineer, and you know, and you're in tech or something, and you know nothing about like how to like change a tire. She's gonna like change a tire. She's gonna be the leader in that situation.
Mhm.
Like I don't know. Like it's just like it's whatever anyone's best at. You're gonna lean in that direction. Like you're a partnership. You're trying to like make each other best. It's not like some things are for the man and some things are for the woman. It's like,
I think
Very well
that,
said.
yeah, I think to add on that though, I think it's important that like while we're talking about like potentially like breadwinner versus like caretaker things like that, like I think it's important that both parties in the relationship kind of contribute to both things. Like maybe one person might be leaning more in the other way because that complements them better. But it's like at the end of the day, let's say like your wife gets sick or something, and you know you guys have like 2 kids, and you're mainly the person that's like working all the time. Like you need to be able to, as a man, you should be able to be a father first before a professional and be like, hey, like I need to know how to take care of my kids and like raise them because my wife is sick. Like that's where it should be like, you know, counterbalance and like complementary to each other.
yeah.
Ladies.
saw this another podcast actually where they're talking about how much effort you give into a relationship, kind of similar to your question. And the husband and wife will come home and be like, I'm at a 20 right now. And so the partner will be like, okay, well then I'll be at the 80 to make us whole. And so there are some days
That's
maybe
cool.
like,
Love that.
It doesn't need to be 50-50.
Exactly.
And that's why people, I think, always think like it needs to be, I'm giving 50, so you need to give 50. But I don't think that is necessarily the case.
That's like so unrealistic because some days are just not going to be at your best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can't always be at 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would be our 50.
and you
Yeah.
have to be able to pick up the slack. Like maybe you're not the best cook, then go pick up takeout or something. But
Exactly.
you have to put in the effort, even if that's not traditionally your role.
Wow. Wow. These were like really good answers. I was hoping it was going to be a little spicier. I was hoping so.
Do you want
I know. I want a hot
It's
take.
gonna be like
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I want a hot take on this.
Feminists across the world can hate me all they want.
Let's go.
I have nothing wrong with traditional gender roles.
Okay. Why?
I think it also depends very deeply on the people like that you are. Like I would get so bored being a housewife, but at the same time I'm like, I could make it work.
Okay.
I could make it work.
Okay.
But when
Like
you say
it's-
you're so fine with traditional gender roles, like, are you saying like, oh, like there is like certain activities or certain like roles are things that like the man should do versus the woman should do? That's like what that sounds like to me. Like oh yeah, like the woman should be the cook or whatever.
I
Like
guess
Women
it's
should
like-
raise the kids.
Yeah,
yeah.
To a certain extent though, like I feel like women typically are more nurturing just in general because we're just like raised to be more sensitive and emotional and like always to share your emotions at all times and like be that nurturing person. So like if somebody wants me to imprint that onto a child instead of a child then being like somebody who's not very emotional and nurtured, like I'll do it in a way. But I also know that, like, realistically, like, we're in the 21st century, like, gender roles should be gone at this point. Like, they should be. But if, like, I found somebody who was the love of my life and he wanted me to stay at home, I'll stay at home. I will.
Wow.
So,
So-
as your friend.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, as your
I know.
friend,
As
she's
your
going
friend.
out, bro.
I
I mean, this is fine.
So, sir, this is, I'm going to say, I'm not going to let you ever give up what you're passionate about, because I know you're passionate about sports medicine and PT and all that
I
stuff.
love it.
And because if your husband one day asks you to be a stay-at-home mom and give up your dream job, I will fight for you so hard and not let you do that.
True.
So just
And that's where the situational comes in. Like, I feel like if I was in, like, the perfect situation that I was in love with, I would never let somebody talk me out of it. Like, a job that, like, I was just obsessed with. But, like, if I was just working, like, you know, just a general job that I wasn't, like, living my best life doing, and he was like, you can stay home, I'd be like, I will stay home. I will. I'll be honest.
Yeah. But more seriously, I don't think it should be like a conversation where like someone is straight up telling you or asking you to do it, because that's like a little aggressive to the point, or like asserting that role.
Yeah.
I think it's more like, hey, like maybe if it matters, like let's say the other partner makes like a surmountable amount of money where, you know, he can kind of cover for both of you guys, and like your priorities can be focused a little bit there because you're a little bit more nurturing in that aspect, then like sure, I think that conversation should be more reasonably had.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, but like to like Casey's point, it's like if someone's gonna be like asking you to like give up a passion or something that you've been actually working to build for yourself,
No.
that's like crazy. Like to me,
Yeah.
honestly.
I agree with that.
Agreed.
I mean, that actually brings me to my next question. I was going to ask you, like, let's say, for example, your partner asks you to stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
So they can chase their dreams, and there's a role that you feel like. Also, before I actually ask that question, I think it's very interesting that you mentioned this idea of specialization, because what if, and this is just me asking what if,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not my
Yeah.
opinions, right?
Yeah.
Please don't cancel. I'm literally just asking you a question.
Okay, what if?
What if traditional gender roles was born out of specialization? This kind of idea what you're talking about.
So you're
right?
saying like
Like,
women
one person's
naturally
literally
are.
better
So
at
you're
something
saying women naturally are
versus
better at
someone
these
else.
like things that were traditionally like assigned to women, and
There's
men
some things that are, you know,
better at,
people-
like, things that are
exactly,
traditionally
just
assigned to men.
Given evolutionary traits. That
I just think
have
like
kinda
we thought
been
that about
instilled
a
with
lot of things in the past, and it's just like borne out to not be the case. Like we used to think like men are gonna outperform women in education, and especially in STEM, like
Word,
forever.
word,
And
word.
like right now we're seeing like the opposite of that. Like women are
Word,
better
word.
at school than guys. Like
Word.
I think
Word.
like there's a like traditionally there's like this big push to like think of like men and women as like super different people, like or beings or whatever. Like there's like 10% overlap or something if you draw like Venn diagrams or something. I think it's like 95, and then there's like 5% differences on each side, which maybe it makes sense for like men to specialize in like I don't know, like going to war or whatever. Like I guess like that makes more sense. But it's really marginal stuff. Like for the most part, like men and women were like people. We're all the same.
Okay, so the next question. Let's move on from this. The next question I was going to ask is, if you stayed at home
Mm-hmm.
because your partner had asked you to, because you're better at nurturing the kids, for example, or you're more able to be better connected with them, his strong suit is to be the super smart computer science guy out there creating some app.
But I think it's hard to learn
Right.
if you're a guy and you're not nurturing, like you have a kid. Like I think it's something that you should be able to learn very easily.
Like,
True.
like I said
True.
earlier. Yeah.
True. So, but let's
I mean,
just
that's what we wanna be
so
with.
let's just say
Yeah,
he just
yeah,
asked
yeah.
you to stay. Let's just say he just asked you to stay at home just because so he can work, and he doesn't want both of us working. He wants someone at the house, and he thinks if one person is going to be at the house all day, it'll be you and I am. Do you feel like that would spur any long-term feelings of resentment towards it? Also, do you feel like you would feel like you didn't get to live your life or like live out your self-actualization, or is your self-actualization tied to being the mom of the house?
Wait, that resentment piece. Sorry, what was that?
But my question is, would you feel resentment long term towards a partner that asked you to sacrifice your life to be at home with the kids all
Sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no, no.
Okay. I think this is a case where you need to have a grown-up conversation before you have kids and decide, you know, if you guys want a nanny, send the kids off, or one of you will stay at home. This is a conversation that you need to have before you have kids.
Mhm.
And I think that'll solve a lot of things. But if you had agreed that, oh, I'll stay at home, then the resentment is unfair because you had agreed to that before having kids.
Yeah, but things change, mindset change, your career can change
I
within
was just going to ask that.
a month, a day, a year. Like you can't control those other factors. So
Yeah.
these girls would never know.
I mean, I think it's just like to add to Tate's point. I just think it's unfair to have that resentment because, like, ultimately, if you guys, like Casey said, if you agree to it and you have that conversation before the kids, or even maybe slightly after childbirth, you know, those are things that you kind of, you know, agree to kind of assign yourself to.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, opportunities come like like a dime a dozen in today's generation. So like if something comes up for you, like rebalance your career, take on a new venture, do this other thing, like explore a different side of yourself, and you can't be that person to stay home, then like you have every right to explore that.
Yeah.
Just a matter of like just having the conversation. Okay, but like having the partner, hey, like I really think this could be beneficial to us, to me, like how do we work around like just caring for the kids.
It's not just one conversation. I think it's you're going to be constantly talking about it throughout like the changes that come in your life.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is like you can have this conversation once, and everything's kind of fine at first, but then over time, like we're saying, people change. Right?
And that's
So-
okay.
Yeah.
So do you think that resentment, like also, do you think the resentment can grow over time? Do you think, like, maybe
Yeah.
more so what I'm asking is like, do you feel like it's quite inevitable, like to kind of feel this way at some point for some people at
I
least?
mean,
I think that's a midlife crisis. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's
Yeah.
like one of those natural
Yeah.
things where like you don't think you'd resent it, and then like all of a sudden you're like
I'm doing
58,
anything,
whatever
right?
age, and you have your
I'm doing
midlife
anything,
crisis,
right? Yeah.
and it's like, oh man, like
Yeah.
this is his fault now or her fault, whatever which way it goes.
Yeah.
But I feel like it also comes down to like nowadays a lot of moms, like I love it, like as soon as their kids are out of the house and they're empty nesting, they go back to work. Like
Mm,
a
Yeah.
ton of like moms are doing this nowadays, and they have great options. Like they work in like daycares and like so they can continue that aspect if they want, or they go learn like a new skill and they do something else. So
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
I feel like the resentment would be like almost like a personal choice to like place blame.
Yeah.
on somebody
Right.
else.
It's a coping
and
mechanism.
that's to add to my
Yeah.
point. Like I think it's at the end of the day, like that. I feel like that resentment is like a choice to like remove accountability from yourself
Mhm.
and just place it on your significant other, which is
Mhm.
really sad to do.
Absolutely.
Because like if you're in that position, like you mentioned, to like where your kids are not really needed to be actively managed, but you have all the time in the world to do literally whatever
Whatever
you
you
want.
want. Yeah.
Exactly. So
You might find a new passion.
exactly.
Maybe you're gonna be like become the new best spin instructor ever. You know.
Mm-mm.
You never know.
Maybe you could change the income dynamic.
There you go, yeah.
Like crazy.
Start your own business.
Maybe. So
Word.
it sounds like the main insight here, I guess, across all of this is that have a conversation with your partner about it.
Mhm.
It's going to be an ongoing conversation,
Communicate.
right?
Always communicate.
It's okay to fulfill what society would deem as traditional gender roles, or to do the opposite. It just depends on what is comfortable for you and your spouse, and what you guys kind of talk about, and what each person wants to specialize in.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like the communication aspect is really just the biggest part of all this.
Yeah.
Is
That's
that-
relationships in a
Always.
nutshell.
Yeah,
honestly.
for sure,
Like, that's
bro.
it. That's
I
all
think
that
not just
matters.
Romantic relationships, any relationship in general that you have,
It was
communication
your
is the
friend,
most
right?
important thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Based.
All right. So next question. All right. Pivoting totally.
What?
Okay.
Pivoting totally. Something that has been, popping off recently. I think, I don't know if it's in the past decade or past 5 years, whatever, but I feel like as the world's becoming increasingly global,
Okay.
increasingly globalized, there's a lot more interracial relationships, right? Relationships of different cultures. What do you guys think about it in general? Would you rather marry someone or be with someone that is within your own culture, or would you rather date someone who is not? Or you don't mind either or? And to take it a step further, not just culture, but race. Because you can have someone who's the same race with a completely different culture. So I would like for us to break down both of those dynamics.